Good morning. I'm John Giles, the Mayor of Mesa and the Chair of the Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Council. I want to thank you for coming this morning to help bring awareness to the issue of domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and last week the MAG Regional Council unanimously approved a resolution of support for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This year we're focusing on an issue that for many years was a largely hidden matter kept private rather than an issue of social, health, or criminal concern. That is older adult abuse. Up to 5 million older Americans are abused every year. Here in Arizona, the Arizona Attorney General's office reports that between 4,600 and 6,900 seniors will experience some type of abuse each year. This abuse can take many insidious forms: physical abuse, psychological or emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and neglect. Even more unsettling, older abuse is believed to be widely underreported, with only 1 in 24 cases reported. In 60% of older abuse cases, the perpetrator is a family member, perhaps the ultimate shattering of trust. This abuse robs seniors of not only their safety and security, but of their dignity, vitality, and sometimes even their lives. But they are not alone. MAG is working through its Regional Domestic Violence Council and other partners here today to end all types of domestic abuse. By bringing local governments, law enforcement, the legal community, and service providers to the table, we hope to tap into their expertise with the goal of effective intervention and holding abusers accountable. On behalf of MAG, I would like to thank our partners on this press event. They include the Area Agency on Aging DOVES program, the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, the Arizona Department of Economic Security, the Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Advisory Council, and the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Today, we will share information about 2 important initiatives underway in the area of older adult abuse. To tell you more about these efforts, I would like to introduce Chair of the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council, El Mirage Council Member Anita Norton. Anita.
Thank you, Mayor Giles, and thank you all for coming out to help us with this event. The biggest social issues require the greatest levels of cooperation. It is only through collaboration among the public and private sectors that the many issues surrounding domestic violence can be addressed. In Arizona last year, 102 people lost their lives to domestic violence. So far in 2021, there have been 48 deaths. The need to end domestic violence is critical. There is no stereotype to domestic violence. It crosses all classes, all ethnicities, all cultures, all education levels, and all ages. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men will be victims of domestic violence in their lifetime. Over the years, the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council has brought local, elected officials, healthcare professionals, prosecutors, police officers, the business community, private funders, and shelter and service providers together to work on domestic violence issues across the region. This year, a major area of focus has been older adult abuse. Here in Arizona, reports of older adult abuse have increased 150% in the last decade. Older adults may become vulnerable due to isolation, physical or mental disabilities, and dependence on others for assistance. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, older adults who require assistance with daily life activities are at increased risk of being emotionally abused or financially exploited. Approximately 50% of older adults with dementia are mistreated or abused. Approximately 18% of women raped each year are age 60 or older. Working with talented partners from a number of sectors, the Maricopa Association of Governments recently updated the Vulnerable Adult Protocol. This protocol now expands to a statewide focus and includes best practices meant for law enforcement, prosecutors, victim services providers, and those who work in offender intervention. Our goal is to treat victims of abuse and exploitation with dignity and respect, and to minimize secondary trauma often associated with investigations of criminal elder abuse and exploitation. Through intervention, awareness, and prosecution of these crimes, we hope to reduce the number of crimes committed. These efforts promote healthy families and a safer community for all. Another important effort we are highlighting today is the Arizona Abuse in Later Life program. This program, led by DES, funds projects such as providing training to criminal justice professionals to address elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation. It also provides cross-training opportunities to professionals working with survivors who are 50 years and older. The theme of this year's event is Dignity Denied. Every domestic violence survivor deserves dignity. When older or vulnerable adults are exploited and abused, their abuser is denying them safety and trust. Our next speaker has experienced that denial. Today, we commend her for her courage in sharing her story to help bring awareness to older adult abuse and help others who may share her experience. Please help me welcome Marie. For her safety, we are not sharing her full name. Marie?
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here, and I want to thank Councilman Norton. As a domestic violence survivor, I'm grateful for what you and the Regional Domestic Violence Council achieve in this region. I also appreciate the opportunity to share my story with all of you here today. I am here in hope that it gives others the courage they need to seek help with the individual situations. Pardon me. 5 years ago, I was working as a healthcare worker in a state outside of Arizona. Some friends introduced me to a man whom I consider my dream. For about a year and a half, our relationship was good. I call that the honeymoon phase. Unfortunately, things would soon go downhill. It began with my partner asking me to turn over money from my paycheck every week, and if I refused or didn't give him enough, he became angry and threatening. He was continually insulting me, chipping away at my self-esteem and my dignity. The financial and emotional abuse became so physical, and I felt my life was in danger. It seemed as if he needed total control of me. He wanted to monitor all my comings and goings, especially my phone calls. He would call my work phone on the average of 30 times in an hour, making sure if I was at work. He was extremely jealous and possessive. Anything or anyone that was not focused on him became a huge fight. He often would go into a rage without warning or reason. I always felt I was walking on eggshells. I never knew when the shoe was going to drop. He often threatened to kill me. Many times when I was driving home, he would pull the steering wheel so that it would drive into the canal. That most canals were 100 feet deep and full of alligators and poisonous snakes. Control, isolation, and fear was how he ruled. My times when I was in prayer or reading my Bible, it was a problem for him. All he cared about was having everything his way. Deep inside, I know my worth, and I needed myself to be myself once again. I needed to fall in love with me. But I was determined to live. With the help of my family, I was able to plan successfully and leave my abuser. I ended up here in Arizona. I was given a hotline number for domestic violence shelters. I kept calling until an answer came and room was made for me at a traditional domestic violence shelter. I was grateful for the help they provided, but I felt I didn't belong there. It was full of young women with young children. While at the shelter, my case manager referred me to a program called Doves, which served older victims of abuse. I started attending their late life domestic violence support groups. The other women in the group seemed to understand what I was sharing. Being similar in age, we shared the same cultural values. For the first time, I felt believed and not alone. The meetings gave me information, hope, and began to restore my dignity. While attending Dove's groups meetings, I applied and was accepted into the transitional housing program. Doves provided for me a safe and secure place of my own, a food pantry, Zoom meetings as a well check every Tuesday, assistance in finding housing for 50 and older, weekly case management, applying for job benefits such as Social Security, Medicare, and transportation assistance. Doves, to me, is an expert on aging resources. Dove is a listening ear and a heart full of wisdom. I know at this moment there are others like me who are experiencing their own stories of abuse and abusive relationships. I want you to know how important it is to reach out for help. There are agencies like Dove that can help. I urge you to call the Area Agency on Aging Seniors Helpline at any time, 24 hours a day, at 602-264-4357. I now realize my dignity was never lost. It was denied by someone I trusted, someone I love. Through my faith in God and my determination to survive, through the Doves program, my dignity has been restored. Yours can be too. Although we have become a disposable society, seniors should never be thought of as being disposable. We have much to offer: wisdom, life experiences, and knowledge. Unfortunately, my abuser was never held accountable, but others can be through work of law enforcement and prosecutors. To tell you more about these efforts here in this region, I would like to introduce Maricopa County Attorney Alista Adele. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Marie, for your words and your bravery. As county attorney of the third largest jurisdiction in the United States, I lead an agency of nearly 1,000 employees. And we're tasked with ensuring that there is accountability in this community for those that break the law. But also, we have the responsibility to be there for victims of crime, to give them a voice in the system. And I strongly believe that we have a responsibility to educate the community, not just about how to avoid being a victim of a crime, but to get resources when they are a victim of a crime. If it's entered into the criminal justice system, I can assure you that we work diligently to ensure the prosecution of the case results in a conviction at trial. We do our very best. But we can't do this alone. We rely on partnerships such as these with agencies throughout our community to create strong cases and resources for survivors. A partnership that we're celebrating today and hopefully creating critical awareness about domestic abuse and specifically older adults who have been abused in our community that are at risk. In early 2015, there was a working group established, hosted by the Maricopa Association of Government, to create a statewide protocol for agencies to use, and it was a revision of one that had been created back in 2001. Documented instances of vulnerable adult abuse were increasing statewide at the time. And that initiated the project that we saw a need to create a protocol that we could use across our state that was uniform. So in Arizona, we don't have a law that says elder abuse. However, we do have child abuse laws and vulnerable adult abuse laws, so that crimes against all vulnerable persons are afforded protections. The number of cases involving vulnerable adults is unfortunately staggering. And it's consistent with every other form of domestic violence in that it's underreported. Victims of these crimes, they're commonly also abused by their caregivers, those that they trust. Those that they trust with their health, their safety, their well-being. And those crimes are underreported because those victims are afraid that there will be no one else to care for them. And while older Arizonans certainly make up a huge part of the population here in our state, and they're protected under the Vulnerable Abuse Protocol, the language from what was created in 2001 wasn't exactly consistent with the current statute, which is why, in the early stages, representatives from my office in Maricopa County and other stakeholders such as the Attorney General's office, Mesa Police Department, our cities, they met to discuss how can we do this more effectively? How can we update this? And they examined protocols from other states to see what we can glean from for here in Arizona. And thankfully, the Maricopa Association of Governments took the lead, not only reaching out to stakeholders, but making sure that we in Arizona invited everybody to the table that could be there to participate in this process. They went through every single section of this protocol, sometimes devoting multiple meetings just to one section because they care. The intent of this protocol is to provide guidelines for law enforcement, prosecutors, victim services, and other agencies that provide crucial care, advice, and guidance on behalf of vulnerable adults. The authors of this protocol wanted to ensure that their cases were appropriately investigated, evidence was preserved so that we could use it during prosecution, and hold offenders accountable for their actions. The protocol recognizes that no single agency or discipline or outreach group can fully address the problems of abuse and exploitation. Each one of our agencies, we have to be aware of the needs of the vulnerable adults and children and the victims, and be sensitive to the needs of them and the other professionals that are involved, so we work collaboratively towards solutions. Along with other community prevention activities, this protocol is going to increase awareness of crimes in our community that are committed against vulnerable adults. And it will also increase the quality of the cases that we bring forth in court that are submitted for prosecution, and the quality of services we can give to survivors, and hold those who victimize these populations accountable. The theme is dignity denied, and I want to thank you again, Marie, for your words. That was very courageous and took a lot of bravery. And we are all working together to make sure that dignity is restored. At this time, I want to invite Mesa Mayor Giles back up to the podium. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Ms. Adele. We are grateful to you and your team at the County Attorney's Office for holding abusers accountable. I also want to add my gratitude to Marie for her willingness to share her story and to help others, particularly those who are suffering at the hands of an abuser. Thank you again to our partners who are here today, and thank you to the members of the media for your attention and to the insidious issues surrounding domestic violence. In your press packets, you'll find a list of the other events taking place during October in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You'll also find a list of resources to share with your viewers and listeners for help with older adult abuse reporting. We hope you'll continue to raise awareness of these resources, not only today and during the month of October, but throughout the year. Thank you for being here this morning.